Hello students, how are you? This is economics lesson video for grade 11, presented by me, Mr. Fusumermeas. It is for term 1, week 2, and lesson 2. In today's lesson, we are going to deal with the economic system concept, particularly command economy. Student, let us briefly revise the previous session. In the previous lesson, we have dealt with the various concepts related to economic system. Economic system is the legal and institutional framework within which various economic activities are take place in order to answer the basic economic questions. We try to see the basic economic questions: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Each question deals with various concepts. In the case of what to produce, it deals with the problem of resource allocation, how we are going to direct our resources for the production of various goods and services. What to produce deals with the problem of resource allocation, how we are going to direct our resources for the production of different goods in different quantities. Shall we give priority for consumption goods, capital goods, civil goods, or military goods, and the likes? In the case of how to produce, it deals with the problem of choice of techniques of production. Basically, there are two different techniques: labor-intensive technique and capital-intensive techniques are there. In the case of labor-intensive techniques, the labor force will take the largest portion in the production activity. In capital-intensive techniques, technologies, machineries are going to be the dominant force in the production of goods and services. There are countries like Ethiopia, which have got large population, more advised to utilize labor-intensive methods. For whom to produce is the other basic economic question that deals with the problem of distribution of the national output, all goods and services. These are the basic economic questions that are answered through the various economic activities in the economic system. Then, in the economic system, there are three different economic systems. All these economic systems are classified based on the resource ownership. The owner of the resource is the basis for the classification of the various economic systems. For example, in capitalistic economic system or capitalism economic system, the owner of the resource is the private sector. In command economy, the state or the government is the owner of the resource. In a mixed economy, both the private and the government are owners of resource. When you say resource, we have discussed that in the previous lessons there are economic resources that are also referred as factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. Owning this resource is the base for the classification of the various type of economic systems. Then we try to see the capitalistic or capitalism economic system. This system is also referred as free market economy or market system or laissez-faire economic system. It has different main features: the right to private property, freedom of enterprise, freedom of choice, profit motive, competition, price mechanism, self interest, existence of negative externalities are the major features that we have in the capitalism economic system. The advantages of this type of economic systems are flexibility or adaptability to the changing environment. There is no bureaucracies to adapt various economic changes, decentralization of economic power to make various economic decisions, new type of consumer goods, the production of new type of consumer goods at large, since there is high degree of competition by the private sector, growth of entrepreneurship, high rate of capital formation, and reward to according to ability, optimum utilization of resource are some of the major features that we have in capitalism economic system. Then when you go to the disadvantage of this system, there is inequality of income at large, in too much wastage because of unhealthy competition in the economic system, unbalanced economic activities, emphasis is more given for materialism, exploitation of labor at large, and the production of negative externalities are parts of the disadvantage of the capitalism economic system. This was what we try to deal in the previous session. Command economy or socialism. This is an economic system which varies economic institutions, production, distribution are owned by the government or the state. The system begins in 1917 in Russia. After that, many countries were adopting this system. China, Vietnam, East Germany, Poland, Hungary, Cuba are some of the examples that adopt the command economic system, particularly after the Second World War. Many nations adopt socialism after the Second World War. However, in the recent past, socialism has lost its popularity, and most of the socialist countries are trying free market economy. According to H. Dickinson, socialism is an economic organization of a society in which the material means of production are owned by the whole community. There is public ownership of resource, state ownership of resource. This is what it means socialism. Let us see some of the main features of the command economic system. Student, try to compare these features with the capitalism economic system. Here in the command economic system, one of the main feature is the collective ownership. When you say collective ownership, all means of production are owned by the society as a whole, and there is no right to private property. It is one of the main features. There is a collective ownership. Resources are owned by the society. Clear social and economic objectives are there. It has a clear objectives and try to attain those objectives with a conscious effort. For example, the socio-economic goals might be include rapid industrialization, raising the living standard of the weak section of the society or the people, and so on. These are the clear social and economic objectives under the command economic system. We don't have such kind of objectives in the capitalism economic system. Central economic planning is the other main feature. Planning for resource allocation is performed by the controlling authority according to given the socio-economic goals. This is what we have in the command economic system. Government strong role is clear. There is a complete control over all economic activities. Maximum social welfare. Command economy aims at maximizing social welfare. It doesn't allow the exploitation of labor or the exploitation of the society. It tries to bring a better condition for the society, the well-being of the society. Relative equality of income is obvious. Since there is no private sector that exploit the society, it tries to bring equal distribution of resource among the peoples and among the societies. These are the major features that we have in the command economic system. Advantage of command economy. Best utilization of resource. Why we have best utilization of resource? Because there is a planned economy. It can ensure the best utilization of economic resources since there is a planning. Absence of wasteful competition. This is the other advantage. There is no place for wasteful use of production resources through unhealthy competition. That is the main feature that you have in the capitalism economic system. Smooth working of the economy. No cyclical fluctuation in the business activities and works smoothly. There are no chance of overproduction or underproduction since there is a plan. The other one is balanced economic growth. While we have a balanced economic growth, there is allocation of resource through centralized planning and led to balanced economic development. Different regions and different sectors in an economy can develop equally. Elimination of private monopolies and inequalities. Command economy avoid the major evils of capitalism, such as inequality of income and wealth, private monopolies, and centralization of economic and social powers. These are not exercised in the command economic system. Disadvantage of command economy: absence of automatic price mechanism is the major disadvantage that you have in command economy. Automatic price mechanism means when the price is determined by the two market forces, demand and supply. But here we have the total control of the government. We don't have the chance to determine price by these two market forces since there is a total control of the government. Whenever the price is determined by the market force, demand and supply, that is be referred as automatic price determination mechanism. Absence of incentive for hard work and efficiency. The entire system depends on bureaucracy. There is high degree of bureaucracy, who are generally considered inefficient in running various kinds of businesses. There is no financial incentive for hard work and efficiency. The economy grows at a relatively slow rate. This is what we have in the command economy. Lack of economic freedom. Economic freedom for consumers, producers, investors, and employers is totally absent, and all economic power are concentrated in the hands of the government. The other disadvantage that you have in command economy. The last but not the least is rate-upism. Rate-upism is widely prevailed in command economy because all decisions are made by the government officials. In order to get a decision, you need to pass different government offices. Rate-upism is high degree of bureaucracy. This is what we have as a disadvantage in the command economic system. Okay, student, it's all about for today. To briefly summarize what we try to see in today's session, we have dealt with the command economy or socialism. It is an economic system that all economic institutions that are engaged in production, distribution, and other activities are totally owned and controlled by the government or the state. This is one of the major features of socialism economic system. The system begins in Russia around in 1917, and after that, particularly after the Second World War, a number of nations were adopting this economic system. Countries like China, Vietnam, Cuba, Poland, Hungary, Eastern Germany are some of the examples which adopt socialism, particularly after the Second World War. But in the recent past, socialism has lost its popularity, and most socialist countries are now trying a free market economic system. Then we try to see the various concepts related to this topic, main features of command economy, advantage and disadvantage. In relation to the main features of the command economic system, there is collective ownership, ownership of resource by the state or the public. Clear social and economic objectives are there, which is different from that of the capitalism economic system. Central economic planning, government strong role, maximum social welfare, relative equality of income are parts and parcel of the main features of the command economic system. In relation to the benefits of the command economic system, we have listed a number of points there. Best utilization of resource since there is planning, absence of wasteful competition again because of the planned economy, smooth working of the economy, balanced economic growth, elimination of private monopolies and inequalities are the advantage that we get from the command economic system since it is controlled and managed by the government. These things were not easily occur or happen in the economy. In the case of disadvantage, there is absence of automatic price determination. We say that automatic price determination is the concept that deals with the market forces. There are demand and supply in the market. with the equilibrium point, they determine the price of the commodities. But we don't have such things in this market or in this economic system, because the government is the one that control and set price and other things. Absence of incentive for hard work or efficiency, the other disadvantage. Lack of economic freedom, economic decisions are not made by the private sector. That is the other problem. And there is red tapeism or high degree of bureaucracy for various economic decisions. These are the overall concepts that we try to see in this short lesson video. As usual, students, you have to read your textbook for further development of the knowledge. Students, we finalize today's lesson with the following exercise. Compare and contrast the advantages and disadvantages of capitalism in socialist economic systems. Do this carefully on your exercise book. That's all for today. Until we meet in the next lesson video, goodbye.